What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Bryce, and today I'm reading chapter 25 of the Parker Inheritance. Let's begin. Chapter 25. On Tuesday, after a little needling from Brandon, Candace put the Wallace yearbooks aside to help him run web searches for anything related to the Lillian Oilers baseball team or school desegregation in Lambert, since both related to Siobhan's parents. But after a few hours, it was clear they weren't making any real progress. Every once in a while, when Brandon stepped out of the room, Candace went to the Atlanta real estate web pages to see if her house was on the market. It wasn't there yet. Later that afternoon, after running more web searches that didn't yield anything, Brandon said, "I've been thinking, your grandma wasn't the only person who got a letter. Parker contracted 4 other people." He reached for the letter and opened it. This is what it said. "The mayor, the school district superintendent, the chair of the school board, and the editor of the Lambert Trader," he read. Maybe we should look for those people." Candace was already shaking her head. "No way." "Why not? They may know something." "Well, if they did have information, they should have used it to help my grandma." "Facts." "Maybe they would have found the money. Maybe she wouldn't have gotten fired." "Facts." Candace rubbed her grandmother's bracelet. Maybe she wouldn't be known as the crazy lady, she thought. "For all we know, they want to split the money with us," Candace continued. "Or worse, they'll tell my mom and she'll shut us down." So she reopened the Wallace yearbook. "How about this? If we're still stuck tomorrow, then we'll call them and ask about the letter." Call them. Brandon scratched his head. "We have to tell an adult about the letter eventually." "I know," she said, "but not yet, okay?" The following day, instead of heading over to Brandon's first thing in the morning, Candace began the Weston game. It was good, really good, though she didn't plan on admitting that to Brandon. Candace had just reached the part where a second bomb went off when the phone rang. "It's me," Brandon said. "Can you come over?" Yeah, I think." "Bring the 1957 Perkins yearbook," he said. "I want to show it to someone." "Brandon, we're not going to talk about the letter," he said. "Just hurry up and get over here." She peeked in her mother's office and told her that she was heading to Brandon's house. Her mother responded with a half-hearted wave, which Candace took as permission. It opened. Brandon called after she rang the bell. She followed Brandon's voice to the kitchen. He sat at the table with his grandfather and a woman she'd never seen before. "This is Miss Kathy," Brandon said. "My granddad's—" Candace rolled her eyes. The boy couldn't even say the word. "Girlfriend ain't a bad word," Miss Kathy said as she stood up from the table. Candace went to shake her hand, but the woman wrapped her in a hug. Miss Kathy was a fairly heavy set. Her mother would have used the term big boned, and she squeezed Candace hard enough to make her lose her breath. So you're Miss Caldwell's granddaughter," she said after letting her go. "She was a good woman, passed away too soon." Candace nodded. It seemed like everyone in the city knew her grandmother. Mr. Gibbs held the chair for Miss Kathy as she sat back down. Candace put the yearbook on the table, then sat between him and Brandon. "Thanks," Mr. Brandon said. "I was telling Granddad and Miss Kathy about our research." "Yeah, research," Mr. Gibbs said, grinning. "Back in my day, we called it courting." "Granddad," Brandon groaned as the adults laughed. "You promised." Candace could feel her face burning. Granddad suggested we interview some people who may have attended the Perkins back then," Brandon said. "And then Miss Kathy offered to help us find them." "I'm a Perkins alum as well." That means alumni. She said, class of 74, 1974. "A lot of older alums moved away." Lambert lost a lot of jobs when I-26 was built to the north and then I said began. Where did that word even come from? That's not. And then again, when the textile plant and auto factory shut down. Candace assumed the textile plant she mentioned was the one owned by the Allen family, and the auto factory must have been the Solar plant that Parker relocated to Colorado. Miss Kathy adjusted her glasses. I don't know many of the alums from the 50s, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to see if any names rung a bell. Ding. She took the yearbook from Candace, 1957. I was a baby back then, still in diapers. Miss Kathy opened the book and began flipping through the pages. She would mumble a name to herself every so often before shaking her head. It seemed like most of the people she knew had died, or moved for work, or moved to be close to their kids. I feel that. Then she paused. Maybe. She positioned the book so Mr. Gibbs could see it. Is that Ellie Farmer? Yeah, it could be, he said. I'm pretty sure her maiden name is McElveen. She married Jane Farmer right out of high school, I think, he said. They didn't they move to Columbia a few years ago? Candace scooted closer to Miss Kathy so she could get a better look at the yearbook. Ellie McElveen was thin and dark-skinned, with black bangs straight against her forehead. I'll see if I can get her number, Miss Kathy said. Candace continued to stare at the photo. Something was tugging at her memory. Do you mind? She began as she flipped to the back of the book. Sure enough, she had seen Ellie McElveen in a photo with Siobhan. They were both members of the newspaper staff. She slid the book to Brandon as soon as he saw it. He grinned. Do you recognize anyone else from this photo, Miss Kathy? He asked. She glanced at it for a few seconds and shook her head. Afraid not. That's okay. Just finding this woman is a big help, Candace said. Thank you. That's my sweetums, always ready to pitch in. Mr. Gibbs leaned over and gave Miss Kathy a peck on the lips. Kissing is the number one way to pass germs, Brandon said. That's actually hilarious. I'm not spreading germs, Mr. Gibbs said. I'm spreading love. Then he kissed Miss Kathy again, this time longer. Brandon pretended to gag. Don't frown, boy, Mr. Gibbs said when he pulled away. You should try it sometime. Women like their men a little sweet. Granddad, Miss Kathy laughed. Let him be, Rudolph. Not too sweet, of course, Mr. Gibbs continued. Can't be all sissified. Can't have your nose in those books all the time, but a kiss every now and then don't hurt nobody. It really doesn't. It feels very good. Candace saw the exact moment when Brandon stiffened during their exchange. It only lasted for a second, but it happened. Brandon didn't like the word sissified. I don't even know what that means. Enough, Rudolph. Miss Kathy handed the yearbook to Candace. Glad I could be of some use. Makes me want to pull out my own yearbook. I was lucky. My son never got a chance to attend Perkins. They combined the schools the year before he reached high school. Isn't that a good thing, Brennan asked? Lambert High is much better than those Perkins, both Perkins and Wallace used to be, right? Newer isn't always better. Facts. Miss Kathy removed her glasses. There's something special about being a Perkins graduate. Sure, our building was falling apart, and we didn't have the newest equipment. But we loved that school. The community loved that school. It didn't matter if you had kids there or not. If you were black, Perkins was your school. The same teachers that taught us history and math sang in the church choirs with our parents. Shopped in the same grocery stores, and a lot of them were alums too. Alums as well. No, same thing. They were more than teachers. She shook her head. I wish there was a better way to explain it. It was hard for you youngins to understand, Mr. Gibbs said. Nowadays, we expect you kids to go off to college. High school is just a stepping stone to something else. But back then, especially for black folks. High school was our college. It meant something to wear your high school colors. It meant something to be a graduate. The entire community rallied around the school. Is that why you and Grandma used to always go back to Tennessee for your high school reunions? Brennan asked. Mr. Gibbs nodded. It wasn't like we were going back to see classmates. They were our family, our blood. Miss Kathy snuggled against him. Maybe I'll get you to take me one day, she said. She was playing, but there was an air of seriousness to her voice. I like that, he said. He started to lean toward her. Brandon, you might want to close your eyes. And that was chapter 25. So tomorrow I'll be reading chapter 26. And that's about it. Peace out.